Alright guys, so hopefully you have started working on the simplifying radicals practice sheet that you got today. That only had numbers in it. The notes for tomorrow, we're going to start adding letters. So I'm going to show you a couple where we are breaking up the letters, or breaking up the variables as well as the numbers. And some of the roots may be different. So if you look at this paper, instead of just square roots, we now have cube roots, and we have fifth roots and fourth roots. So it does end up being a little different. So pretty much the rules of simplifying radicals, hold on a second. So the rules of simplifying radicals, break up the number under the radical into prime factors, and that's what you're doing on the practice sheet. Then you're going to break up the variables under the radical, group the prime factors and or the variables based on the root you are given. So in this case, if we have a cube root, you're going to group your terms into threes. This one down here, you're going to group them into fours because you have a fourth root. When you have a square root, you're just taking groups of two. So number one, and again, it doesn't matter how you break it up as long as you end up with prime numbers. You're usually going to have twos and threes, maybe some fives. So for 48, I'm going to start with 12 and 4. Okay? You can do 16 and 3, you can do 24 and 2, it doesn't matter. Then I'm going to break up the 12, we'll do 6 and 2, and the 2, we'll do the 4, we'll do 2 and 2, the 6, keep going, into 2 and 3. So there's your prime factorization. Again, I have broken it up into nothing but prime numbers. I have a bunch of 2's and a 3. So since we have a square root, you're going to circle every pair of 2's. So circle every two 2's that you see. So here's one, and we'll use a different color. So there's one group of 2's. This is actually another group of 2's. Okay, so we're going to group that together as well. Since we have two of these, because you're pretty much going to pull it out every time you have a group. Okay, it's going to come outside of the radical. So we have one group of 2's, that's going to come outside the radical. Then you have another group of 2's. You're going to pull 1, 2 out of that group, outside the radical. The 3 is kind of left over by itself. If it does not belong to a group, it's going to stay under the radical. So pretty much think about it this way. Anything left over goes under the radical. So we end up with 2 times 2 times the square root of 3. Again, both of these 2's came from the two groups of 2 that we had. Okay, so you had one group of 2's, you bring it down once. Another group of 2's, you bring it down again. Then you got to simplify it from there. 2 times 2 is 4, so you end up with 4 radical free. Okay, and that's your final answer. Number 2, getting a little bit more tricky here because we have this x to the 4 and the y to the 5th. So for 450, again, just start breaking it up. I'm going to use 140, well, let's see, 10 and 45. And then you can break up the 45, 9 and 5, and break up the 9, 3 and 3. The 10, 5 and 2. So notice how I have nothing but prime numbers here. I got a 5, a 2, 3, 3, 5. Okay? Again, circle the groups of 2. I have 2 3's. I'm going to circle that. I actually still have 2 5's, so I'm going to kind of group that together. There we go. And then I have a 2 left over. Okay, so the 5 comes out because you have a pair of 5's. The 3 comes out because you have a pair of 3's. And then you're going to have a 2 under the radical. Now, before we do that, we do need to break up the x's and the y's. Okay, now this is the easy part. You have x to the 4th power. That means you're going to have 4 x's. So when you break it up, you're going to have x times x times x times x. And I want you to write it like that every single time until you get into the habit and you can start developing these patterns of where these simplified powers come from. The y to the 5th, we have 5 y's. Because it's y times y times y times y times y. Alright, again, from there, you're going to pick out your groups of 2. So, I have 2 x's, circle it, 2 x's, circle it. Just like what you did with the numbers, you're going to bring it down. So I have 1 x, I have another x. This is kind of how many pairs you have. I have 1 pair of 5's, I have 1 pair of 3's. I have 1 pair of x's, I have another pair of x's. And then do the same thing with the y's. There's a pair, there's a pair. So times y times y. Everything left over is going to go under the radical. So you're going to have this 2 under the radical, and you have a y left over. That's going to go under the radical. And again, from there, you just simplify it. 5 times 3 is 15. X times x is x squared. Y times y is y squared. And these answers are going to look complicated, but remember, you guys already learned about simplifying radicals. You've already learned about simplifying exponents. Now we're just taking it to another level, okay? I'll do number 3 with you. So for number 3, again, break up the 48. So you've got 16 and 3, and we have 4 and 4. Running out of room here. And then you're going to have 2 and 2, and another 2 and 2. So I have a 2, 2, 2, 2, and a 3 up there. Notice how now the power is a 3, or the root is a 3. So instead of pairs of 2, you're now going to have 3s, groups of 3. So I'm going to circle these 3 2's. The 2 and the 3, you leave them alone. There's only one of them. And again, you're only bringing it out once. Okay, so outside the radical, I'm only going to have 1, 2. Under the radical, I'm going to have a 2 and a 3. Breaking up the a and the b, again, I have 7 a's because it is to the 7th power. So this breaks up into a times a times a. Keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'll go ahead and break up the b times b times b. I got my 3 b's. Again, you're picking out pairs, well not pairs, groups of 3. So circling 3 a's, circling another 3 a's. Okay? I have 2 of these. So you're going to bring them both down. Times a times a. Again, I have a group of 3 of 2. Group of 3 2's, bring it out once. Have a group of 3 a's, bring it down. Have a group of 3 a's, bring it out. And I do have a group of 3 b's, bring it out. Whatever is left over goes under the radical. You have a 3, and you have an a. Simplify it. I have 2. This ends up being a squared, and then you have b. And you have 3a into the right. And you're done. So, this is one of those videos you might want to watch it more than once, so you get the hang of it. And again, notice how I'm showing a lot of work here, okay? We'll talk about the pattern tomorrow when we finish up these notes. So, and we'll go over the rules of exponents tomorrow as well. All right? Have a good night.